Oh, why did we choose such a confusing title, man? Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Echo podcast. I'm Temi.
And I'm Toni. Let's get into it.
Yeah, but honestly, I feel like I've been spending so much money. Like, was the outside always this expensive?
The outside.
Yeah, like, I mean, inside my house, it was easy to not be spending this money.
That is true. Apart from takeaways, to be honest.
Yeah.
I've definitely been having more takeaways recently than, I don't know, ever before.
In life?
In a year, definitely, yeah.
No, my thing is, so there was a point during lockdown where I started just buying clothes because I was just like, I just need some excitement in my life. Like, the Hermes guy used to.
Yeah. The Hermes guy now.
Yeah, Jazz, my friend Jazz.
If you're watching, shout out to you.
He was cool though. He was so smiley. Like, I feel like we had a great relationship. I haven't seen him in a while though. Maybe I need to make an order or something. I don't know. Honestly, but it's nice to be out, be meeting people, like seeing people face to face, having barbecues.
Yours, food.
I missed barbecues, man.
Nice. Yeah, same.
I feel like summer's here, like barbecues have arrived.
It feels like it's just the perfect time to have a social life again. Like, although saying that, I feel like doing two things in a week is like, oh my gosh, I'm getting so much done.
No, like on a reel, it's kind of overwhelming. I feel like my social battery drains so much quicker than it did before.
I think I don't have the stamina anymore to like do stuff. Like before, I'd be running from one place to another, like just quick catch some food in between stuff, and like now I'm just like, what? I'm standing all day, walking all day, like out and about. What is this? My body's not used to like.
I feel like I've grown into like a 40-year-old woman who, like, actually 40 is really young, like maybe like 60-year-old woman.
How?
In terms of like, you know, like if things start at 8 p.m, I'm like, whoa.
That's like, yeah, I get what you mean.
Excuse me, 8 p.m? Like, I'm thinking like, I'm supposed to be like winding down, get ready for bed. Like, what's going on here? But no.
Oh, yeah, that's funny because a few weeks ago I went out with our other sister and we left. I can't remember, it was like 10:30 or something. We left the house and I was just like, this is so weird to go out so late. I've not done this for so long.
I know. Crazy.
But, yeah, it's nice getting to know people though, because I've met a couple of people recently and it's just weird to be like, oh wait, I'm like
meeting new people.
Yeah, meeting people. How do I do that? Like, am I making an alright impression? I don't even think about those things anymore. It's just weird.
Do you usually think about like people's first impression of you?
No, not really, to be honest. I know some people put a lot of kind of thought into it and stuff, unless it's like something specific, like an interview or like I don't know that, or something like you already know there's weight on the relationship,
like meeting the parents, kind of, isn't it? Obviously, yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like that kind of thing.
Yeah, because otherwise it's just like, well, you know, you're just some, like if it's
you're just a nobody.
No, I'm just thinking like, for example, if it was like a bartender or something, or like someone that you're not really gonna meet, or like you're not
their opinion of you doesn't really make much difference to your life.
And then other times that you meet somebody but you don't know how much you're gonna be friends or like
that's true, actually.
Whatever, so it's like I just take it as it is, as it comes. Yeah,
there's that statistic. I mean, I don't know the exact numbers, but that like you meet
fake stats. Fake news.
No, I'm not about to make a stat up. It's just that you decide whether you like someone within like a certain number of seconds of meeting them. Like, that's
it's
crazy.
all about the body language as well. Like, like I get into these like videos of different experts talking about stuff, and one of them is a guy who worked with the FBI, I think, and all about body language, and he's saying stuff about like moving your feet towards the exit, signaling what to go, and like how much eye contact you have in the first however many seconds, is an indicator of how much you like
I feel
them and
like
stuff
you
that.
have to take some of that stuff with a pinch of salt. Like my one of my friends used to have this thing that if like somebody like plays with their jewelry while they're talking to you, like they like you. And I was like, no, I just play with my jewelry. Do you know what I mean?
I've heard that, but I think, I don't know, it might be a comfort thing or something. I don't think it's necessarily like but I think people do these things unconsciously or subconsciously, but then obviously some people are trained to do those things to be, you know,
masters of deceit.
Yeah, like spies or something. I don't know why we're talking about spies.
International super spy.
Oh gosh.
Into the thick of it.
I'm gonna change the subject. Well, not change the subject though, because that brings me on to like, don't you think it's so weird how, well, I don't know if so weird is the phrase, but you only know people in the context of which you meet them. So for example, like my work colleagues, I only know them in their work space. Although I've seen, like, with working from home, I've seen the parent side of them or, you know, stuff like that. So yeah,
it's true. That's really true. I think with lockdown and Zoom, Microsoft Teams, etc., we've actually seen people in their homes and we've seen them like interacting and things like that. Like you do see your colleagues in a different light when they're in their home environment, you know, around their kids, their husband, whatever. Definitely. Like the husband's just walking through the video, you get to see like the dynamic and stuff. Yeah.
It's funny though, because in the job that I'm in, I started working from home and I've been there over a year and a bit. So I only know people in the working from home teams thing. So it's kind of a weird dynamic, because I think of like when we go into the office, I don't know what, if they like tea or coffee or like...
all those important questions.
No, but just like little things that you pick up from being in the office. I don't know what their hobbies are because like things have been locked down. So it's like... when you say, oh, what you've been up to at the weekend, obviously now people are doing more stuff, but at first it was just like, can't really do anything, can't go anywhere
in my house.
It's just like really interesting that when I meet these people, I don't know, I think it's gonna be interesting. That's interesting. Weird. But it is also quite funny overhearing like members of the family in their work meeting and, you know, like I never heard you say that before, or something like that. I think
it's also funny because, sorry, taking it slightly off topic, but I was talking to my friend the other day and she was like, yeah, I'll pick up that action, and I was like, whoa, did you just go into work mode? Like, don't you think it's so funny how we use certain language at work and then like don't use it outside?
I would never say that anywhere else.
Like let's brainstorm here, or I don't know, like let's pick this up offline. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I've never heard that one, to be fair.
Really? They love that at my work. Yeah, we'll pick up this conversation offline. Like, no, you won't, because you're still going to be on Microsoft Teams, aren't you?
Yeah.
But no, yeah, it is. I think it is really interesting how you meet people in a certain context, and sometimes you actually never know them outside of that context. So within that, like, my question is, do you think that you can really know someone if you only know them within one context? So like, I don't know, your school teachers, for example, like they don't get to see you at home. They don't get to see you maybe just like with your friends when they're not there. Like, do they really know you?
But also likewise for the kids to the teachers, because you know, like when you're a kid and you see someone out of school and you're like, oh my gosh, I saw
they have a life. What?
Oh my gosh, they're in H&M or like something like that. It's like, yeah, they are a person.
Do you know, one of my old teachers, I remember he had like 2 young kids, and his wife sent him an email about like what his kids were up to, and it popped up on the screen. But just the way that they spoke to each other, it was like,
how much of the email did you see?
It was one of those, like, you know, the preview comes up, but it was just like, oh, interesting. I don't know that I would have that on my work laptop, but okay.
Yeah, it's kind of funny that she emailed him.
Yeah,
I don't know, but anyway.
I think he told her not to do that again. It never happened.
Can you imagine that? I'm intrigued to know which teacher that was. If I know
you didn't actually know them. They joined after you left.
I also think it's can be kind of scary that you only know people in a certain light, because you know how you hear these stories of like, oh yeah, but he was such a nice guy, and then it's like an axe murderer or something. I watch too many movies, guys. I watch too many movies. I watch like thriller type movies as well, so it's always like, oh yeah, the unsuspecting like little old lady, and then, you know, something else happens. So I also think like, oh my gosh, like how much do I actually know these people who I think I know, but I only see them in a certain aspect, even if it is weekly or daily. But
do you think, like, is that like a fear that you have?
I mean, it's not that deep seated. Like, it's just, I mean, I take it with a pinch of salt. I think I have good enough judgment of character or whatever and I just pray that, like, God help me with these people that I'm meeting. But yeah, and like, I would have caution when I'm first getting to know someone and kind of not test them, but, you know, like, I wouldn't be like, hey, come over, like, straight away to someone, like, you know what I mean? Like, so
yeah, no, it is interesting. And I actually, in this social media age with influencers, and, you know, we have more access to celebrities and stuff like that, and I actually think that that's a really interesting, I guess, place to be, because actually in some ways we know a lot more about people than, you know, we did pre this, like, social media age that we're in. But actually we also, there's so much that happens that we don't know. Like, you know, YouTubers are always like, you see these, like, 12 minutes of my life, blah blah blah, and, you know, we jump to conclusions and we make decisions and we think that we know people. Actually, we really have no idea what these people are about.
The other day I was listening to Justin Baldoni's Man Enough podcast, and it was the episode that he had with Shawn Mendes. I think it's quite recent out, but anyway, they were talking about how people often think that Shawn Mendes is a good guy and that he's always, like, labelled that way, and it's almost a pressure for him to always be the good guy and seen as a good guy. And then there's another host on it, Liz, I've forgotten her name, Liz Plank, I think, and she was saying, like, why do we have that kind of aspect of thinking of people in that such a binary way of a good person versus a bad person? And I think it links into social media with, or influencers specifically, where they're, like, cancelled so quickly for something that they've said or done, or, you know, something like that. Even when it's 15 years ago, it comes out in the media, and then people are all of a sudden, like, tarring them with whatever brush it is of, you know, they're now a bad person, we're not going to support them anymore, etc., rather than giving people grace to be like, okay, you've made a mistake. And especially when that person is showing that there's remorse or something like that. I mean, if it's something where people are just like, well, you know, that's the way I am and get over it, depending on the situation, obviously, then whatever. But I
think it's because we see people, obviously we see good as a standard, like, for understandable reasons, and a good person does something bad and suddenly they're a bad person. But, you know, a bad person does something good and that doesn't necessarily suddenly make them a good person.
It still makes them a bad person.
They're still a bad person who happened to do something good.
Yeah. It's also, on the flip side, I've seen, you know, in comments and stuff like that, people being like, oh, I'd really love to be friends with these people, or, like, if I met them in real life, whatever. And then I guess I've seen also people being like, or influencers or whatever you want to call them, saying the same as you, what you were saying, like, you don't actually know me that well, and, you know, you're only seeing what I'm putting out there, and what's the specific thing that I want you to see, kind of a thing.
But to be honest, that was a consideration when making this podcast, like, the fact that it's letting people into my life, but obviously I can't let you guys listening, like, into every single thing that I do. So certain things that I share, like, you won't have the full context of, and, like, all the history surrounding it, and you know, all of the information. So naturally you're going to make conclusions and, you know, think about what you would have done in certain situations, or how, you know, you would have reacted. But actually it's like you don't have all of the information there. So and it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's something that can be, like, anxiety inducing almost, because it's just knowing that people have ideas of you that you can't 100% control. Like, I mean, that's just life, isn't it? But it's giving people access to a certain amount of you, isn't it?
I think that especially comes in with vloggers, though, because the line of being well known versus known well kind of gets blurred. So vloggers are well known, like, influencers or whatever well known by a lot of people, like their name is known, for example, but then they're not known well by all of those people, and because someone is watching part of someone's life on YouTube or whatever it might be, daily, weekly, they think they know them better than they actually do. I remember listening to it's a Mo Gilligan's podcast, and he said that he was, I can't remember which podcast this was, but he was talking to someone whose kind of stage name is different to their actual name. Yeah, and then someone saw them in the street and just called them by their actual real name, and the person was like
you don't know me like that.
One, but yeah, you don't know me like that. What's going on?
To be fair though, that's over familiarity, isn't it? And even day to day, like I like people calling me like Thames, like that's fine. But as soon as someone who I'm like, you don't know me like that says it, I'm just like, excuse me.
Yeah, like that ain't right. That just ain't right.
Yeah, like some people call me T, and someone at work the other day was like T, and I was just like, whoa. Sorry, I know that's not your point, but
I think it can happen a lot, specifically with vloggers, because people do see their house, they see their dog, they see parts of their life that seem very normal, so they think they know them as a person, but actually in all reality they don't. And I don't know, I think we need to remember the difference, and I guess maybe let's define well known versus known well, because how can you come to a point where you think you know someone well? Or like, I mean, obviously we're sisters, we've known each other your whole life. So I guess we know each other well, but do I feel well that I'm getting myself mixed up though. Well known is like someone's name being well known. Known well is someone knowing
the
you
person
well.
The person being, isn't their character being known.
Yeah, so do I feel known well by you? Well, yes, because it's been most of my life that you've known me. So the nature of relationships and stuff, it changes over time, and how you're relating with someone and stuff like that. So actually, there's some people that you can know for a long time, but the nature of the relationship and the amount of time you're spending with them changes. So you might have known someone for 8 years, but actually for the last 5 years you haven't been near them, you haven't seen them often, and how well known are you by them?
To be honest, I think that often we can hold on to relationships and we can get almost concerned about the fact that relationships change, but it's such a natural thing. Like relationships won't stay the same through every different context within your life. So for example, like I think, leaving university, for example, like those friends that I'd made at uni that I saw pretty much every day, like spent all of our time together, naturally my relationships have changed since I've moved away from them and I'm not seeing them every day. And one of my friends was kind of like, oh, like it's such a shame that like it's changing, whatever. And I was thinking, it is in a sense really sad that we're moving out of this season, if you like, of our lives, and that things are changing, but actually I think there's real beauty in the fact that dynamics change and you get to know people a little bit better. It goes back to what we were saying about you only know someone in one context. Like, we get to experience people in doing different things. Like now, my uni friends, a lot of us are working, a lot of people are, doing different things with their lives, and it's really exciting to actually see them grow and see, what they're achieving now, see them building their capacity, seeing them, doing the things that we were talking about doing. Like it's actually really exciting. So it's sad when relationships change, and when you know that your relationship with someone isn't going to be the same, but also we have to embrace it and look forward to the next thing. But similarly, losing relationships can be really hard as well.
Definitely.
But actually certain relationships need to be lost, and that is not necessarily because that person's done something bad or anything like that, but actually sometimes we just outgrow people.
And it's funny because that kind of comes back to the cancel culture thing of like thinking that something bad has happened for a relationship to be ending. And like this can be any type of relationship, but that's not that's not necessarily the case. It's, you know, people drift apart and things like that. Circumstances, etc., can just mean that with life, the effort is not put there to be, you know, building the relationship. So yeah, it's interesting, because I think oftentimes when a relationship might be ending, it's either that you don't really clock it because it's just kind of slowly fading over time, or you can kind of understand that the relationship is kind of going and someone really wants to keep holding on or whatever in that moment.
Have you experienced that?
I would say I've experienced, so I'm, and I think you're quite similar, but I'm somewhat, you're not similar in, you haven't said this, but I've always said that I think I'm a better long distance friend than I am with people who I live close to. And it's because I put in the effort to message people, to make calls with them, to do things that is like, you need to make the effort to keep the relationship going. Whereas with people that you know you're going to see every week anyway,
you almost don't have
the
to
relationship's
put
different, because I sometimes don't put in the effort that's needed to keep that relationship as good as it can be, or as, not intense, but do you get what I mean? Like as as deep as it could be, or something like that. I don't know.
Okay.
So I've definitely been in a place where, you know, I've kind of messaged somebody once or twice and, like, you know, been ghosted or whatever, or they just never come back. And it's, you can only do that so much. Yes, I tend to be the person in some of my friendships or whatever who is the one who more often initiates it, but then it's reciprocated in terms of, like, the person replying or whatever, and then there's a bit of time and then, you know, initiate again. But after a few times of doing that over time, it's like, well, why am I bothering then if the other person's not coming back? So I don't think I've ever necessarily been in a place of kind of like desperately holding on to a relationship, but at the same time being like, oh, it's sad that this is not happening anymore. When, especially, I think it's when one person feels like they're putting in the effort more than the other.
So like one-sided friendships, one-sided relationships. Yeah. But I do have to say though, I think that, you know, if you go through a whole relationship and it's very one-sided, like it does get tiring. But sometimes there are different points of your relationship, if that makes sense. Like I might be getting more than my friend at one stage then they're giving me, I don't know why I said she, then they're giving me, and sometimes vice versa as well. That actually they're, sometimes it's almost like the scales like tip a lot of the time as well. We can put pressure on people to give, when actually sometimes we need to think about the context of their situation, think about their capacity, think about what's going on in their lives, you know, sometimes, and stuff like that too.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so if we're talking about being well known, as in being known widely, and being known well, as in being known deeply, if you're listening, we want to know, I was going to ask if you'd rather be well known or known well, but I think actually a better question, since they're not really mutually exclusive, is would you put more value on being well known or being known well?
And why? Why have you chosen your choice?
Yeah, for sure.
What about you? Tell me.
So, okay, I see the value in both. So being well known, I think that it's not, I don't personally care to be well known myself. In fact, I don't think I would like it. I don't think I would like, you know, that level of exposure. But actually certain things that, if I do certain things, then actually having that platform is really beneficial. So, you know, people like making music, for example, obviously you want that platform because you want people to be able to experience this thing that you've put time and effort into, and that is actually something that people would enjoy. So for example, this podcast, of course, like, I mean, if we're talking to one of you, it would probably be easier to have a phone conversation, but, you know, this is still worth doing because maybe, I don't know, hopefully it's helping you, or hopefully it's entertaining you, or whatever it is that you listen to this for. But actually, I think some of the things that we're going to talk about are really probably going to be quite valuable to people. So actually the podcast, I'd want to be really well known, and naturally that comes with me being well known to a certain extent, you know. And I know that like we might be like a way off there, but actually that would be really cool to actually have this platform to be well known and out there. But at the same time, like I really value deep relationships with people. Like I think throughout my life, and one of the things I value the most is the people that are in it. Like I think about the fact that just life is a bit rubbish sometimes, but actually the people that you have around you literally give you life. So after that balance dance, I think probably for me, I put more value on being well known. Known widely. No, I definitely don't. We've chosen such a confusing title. Like, give me some grace here. No, I would rather be known well in terms of having deep relationships with people, I think. What about you?
I would rather the latter, being known well. And I say that really because I just hate being misunderstood. It's I really just do not like it. I think that when you deeply know somebody or know them well, you see the nuances behind what they're doing. You understand where they're coming from. You see their heart, their character, their what makes them other than, you know, physical side of things, their personality. For example, if you saw something written by someone who you knew versus someone you didn't know, and it could be the same thing that's written, the person that you know, you're imagining their voice in your head as you're reading it. Like you can
like when
say
you get a message.
Yeah, exactly. You understand like their intonation even in the way it's written. Whereas if you don't know the person, you don't know the nuances behind what's been written. You can't think like, oh, that's actually them saying something sarcastically, or you know, you don't have those nuances. So I think
that's a really good example.
I definitely prefer to be known well. But in what you were saying about being well known, and I guess with us with the podcast, I totally see that. But I think also some people choose well known because they do want to be famous. They want their name to be out there, not necessarily because they want their specific art or gift to be out there.
Yeah, true.
I remember again with Mo Gilligan's podcast, I was listening to the one where he had Clara Amfo on, and I just love her, to be honest. But she said something that really struck me, and I wrote it down. I'm going to read it. She said, "The art is the gift, the career is a choice, and the fame is a side effect." Ooh. And so she was talking about people who have an art, have a gift, have something that they want to do and are choosing as a career path. And alongside that can come fame, and when that comes, it can be a shock to people, or it can be unwanted and hard to deal with. And I think that's the difference. If you are wanting to be famous for fame, it's a very different place to be in than ending up famous because of your gift or your art or something like that. And there's nothing wrong with either wanting to be famous yourself just for fame, or, you know, wanting your talent to be famous and that's how you end up being famous. But I think it's two very different ways to come to fame or come to being well known by the masses. And then it goes back to people think they know you better than they actually do. So
yeah, it's true, but it's remembering that, you know, people have depth, don't they? And it is worth getting to know people and get to know their depth. And I know that, you know, sometimes we're far removed from people, so we can't actually do that. So I don't know, you use the example like Mo Gilligan, like I think it would be really cool to know him, but I don't have access to know him. But actually there are so many people in my life that I do have access to know, and it's that whole idea of no man is an island. You know, we were created to be in relationship with each other and in community with each other. So and I actually think that there's this narrative that a lot of, I would say, younger people tend to have, that that it's like, no one owes me anything. I don't owe anyone anything. Like, me, myself, and I is all I've got in this life. And I think that
little Beyonce quote.
Me, myself, and I. Yeah. But anyway, I really threw myself off by starting to sing that. Great song though, can I just say? But yeah, that kind of, and that often comes from a place of, you know, hurt, and it's the fact that someone's been through some stuff and that's their response. But I think that's such a dangerous, you know, trope to live. Do you live a trope? I don't know. But
I don't know what a trope is. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie, sis.
Wow. It's a dangerous narrative, basically. And it's a dangerous way to live your life because, okay, nobody really owes you anything, but actually there's so much benefit in being in community, you know. There's times when, personally, I've been, you know, through some stuff, and I've been, you know, my mental health has been in the pits, and people around you, they kind of keep your head above the water. Like, I don't know if I said water, but, you know, people around you, they really help you out. And likewise, even with this podcast, for example, like some really great guys like Reese, James, George helped us out with the beat. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't have the skills. I don't necessarily have the skills to do what they did, but actually you gain stuff from being around people is the point I'm trying to make. And, you know, that might be a fairly trivial example, but
I think people enrich your life, don't they?
Oh, absolutely,
like, yeah. I remember, well, the saying, variety is the spice of life. And I understand that in terms of, like, not always doing the mundane makes things more interesting, but actually it is those relationships. It's getting to know little things about people that you never knew before and seeing them in a different aspect, which then goes back to what we were saying before about not always seeing someone in one way, and also making the effort to cultivate the relationships. Going back to the well-known versus known.
Can I just really quickly make a point? Yeah, I was just thinking about the fact that we have to make peace with the fact that people don't know everything about us. Like, I think it can be really jarring when you realize that people have maybe jumped to a conclusion that isn't really true or don't have all the facts, but that is life, and we have to be okay with that. And I think I used to kind of live my life really caught up in the fact that people are misunderstanding me, and I had to come to a point in my life where I was like, that's what happens in life, and I have to be okay with that the people who need to know the truth will know the truth. And I really had to kind of look at the value that I place of, like, people not necessarily liking me but understanding me. And I think that is something that it's a tension almost that you have to manage. But yeah, sorry, what were you about to say?
So I was going to say, back to the well-known versus known well bit. If you were well-known, so your name was known widely, what would it be for, other than this podcast, of course? What would it be for, or what would you want it to be for? I think there are different questions, or I have different answers to the different questions that you just asked. Okay. Because I feel like if it was what would it be for, I honestly feel like I would probably get, like, accidentally famous from a meme or something, because my face, my face moves in ways I don't tell it to move. Like, guys, I'm sure you'll see some looks in this podcast. Probably. She's just, like, looking at me. I'm like, are you okay?
But the thing is, though, like, my face portrays things that I'm not even thinking, so people will be, like, getting offended or something for the way that I'm looking at them, and I'm just thinking about, like, what I'm having for dinner. Like, it's so bad. But I feel that's probably how I would get famous. So yeah, that's
how you would get famous. Actually wanting to
get famous. I mean, in another life, when I used to run, like, track, maybe that, or in another life. Sorry.
Another life. Katy Perry. I don't really like that song.
That one.
Yikes! I should have said that on the podcast, should I?
Yikes!
That's Katy Perry.
Anyway, I do know that song. But anywho, that reminded me of Franklin from My Wife and Kids.
Why?
Anywho, yeah. Anyway,
is that your answer?
No.
About track and field.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Or like doing like choreography or something. I think that would be a really, really cool way to get famous. In this life, I don't know. We'll see. Are you waiting for me to ask you the question?
You can ask me or we can just wrap up.
I would love to know your answer. I thought you were just going to naturally say yours, but...
Well, yeah. For me, I would love it to be, for me to just be like in the West End or something, to be honest. Just part of the ensemble. The first time I went to the theatre, I went to watch The Lion King on Broadway, and I thought it was the best thing ever. It was amazing. And I was like, I want to be one of those leaping gazelles. Like, I would love to be one of those. Like, they especially
the way that they came on,
puppets, as well as them. But also, yeah, just bringing together singing and dancing. Really, I like the movement sports.
Sorry, so. I'm just imagining you being like, I could do that too. Like,
those split leaps.
I don't know why it's sending me, but the fact that you picked out that you wanted to be a gazelle, that is just...
Well, I didn't want to be the elephant. Like, come on.
Fair enough.
Or
the
people with the birds. Like,
I feel like you'd make a great Simba.
Yeah,
or Nala, maybe.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't need to be out in the forefront. I don't need to be that well known.
Just a part of the team.
Yeah, you know. Just
Fair enough.
Solid, like solid part of the team. A part of the ensemble, part of the choir, you know, that kind of thing.
Just want to be there.
Yeah.
Cool.
I think we're wrapping up now.
Yeah, I think this has come to a natural end. That is a wrap on this week's episode. Hope you've enjoyed our first episode of the RJay podcast. Whoop whoop, exciting. But yeah, interact with us. Let us know your thoughts on the discussion today. As we said in the last episode, it's not just a discussion between the two of us, but we can share, you know, we're generous people. But we want to know your opinions too. So make sure you check out our social media and let us know what you think.
Yeah.
But it ties in really nicely to next week's conversation. I'm going to leave you in suspense about what that is, but what I will say is we have two very special guests with us, so make sure you tune in. Episode will be out next Monday, so have a great week.
See ya.
See you on our socials.